We might clang the clanger for new stadium progress, more World Cup watch parties in danger of being canceled, and we get to know World Cup host cities with Andrew from Because Football. That and much more on Monday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kick Around, the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. How you feeling? My name's Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, my co-host, my partner in this endeavor, Mr. Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. How y'all feeling?
Here we go. It's a new week. It's another opportunity to talk about American soccer, Rob. We've got some really cool stuff. I love a good soccer under construction. It might be my favorite segment on this show. Looking at renderings, I could do it all day, every day. I do want to shout out our ultras who are here. Mr. Bob is here imploring people to give the show a thumbs up. If you do not want to join as an ultra, which is the best way to support the show,
Yep.
at least hitting that like button. That's the number one thing you can do. Appreciate Mr. Bob, who also said he's drinking from his Mr. Bob hoodless mug today. We got our guy, Shrimper Steve, in sunny, warm South End. I'm sure that's said with an incredibly Florida accent that makes it sound cooler than that. We got Mr. Tim McDuff. We've got Dwayne in the building. Homeless Shoe. Who am I missing? Come on, guys. Who we got? Okay, Sean. No, sorry, that's not Sean. Seneca Rocker. Dub V. There we go. Armando is here. Did I already say a Homeless Shoe was here? Homeless Shoe is here.
Yeah.
Kate is here. John is here. Bill is here. Good morning, Bill. Good morning to D Parks. Good morning to Michael and Tosa Mario. Buenos dias. Angus is here. Who else am I? Man, look, this is amazing. I feel like we shouldn't be taking this much time because we got to get into the meat of the show. But there's so many ultras here who are supporting us, and we appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much. Be like them and become an MK Ultra.
Yeah, we got a great show ahead of us. We have multiple stadium updates. We have World Cup watch party updates, and we got a great guest coming at the top of the hour, and we're going to wrap the show up. Jason's got some gifts to unwrap, and then we also have ticket giveaways. So those of our friends in the northeast of the country, stay tuned because we're partnering with Blackstone Valley Tourism Council, and they've scooped up some tickets to May 9th's game that we will be at. And hopefully it's going to be an Ultra Fest. Get as many MK Ultras up in Pawtucket as we can.
Do you think there are people that are fairly new to Morning Kick Around and don't really know what went down in Albuquerque and maybe don't know exactly what we're trying to get done here, what we're putting on in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, Rob? Do you think that's a thing?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I mean, that was, a good 6+ months ago now, 7 months. And I mean, we had a great time out there. We saw some sights and sounds of the city, and then we put on a college game day style show. We had a desk live shot in the concourse. There he is. There they are. There we are.
This is a very ugly screenshot from the video on YouTube. This is not but you can tell, like, we got a desk there. That was the all the creatures from Meow Wolf who we were celebrating there because it was Meow Wolf night at Isotopes Park for New Mexico United. That's our guy Sam Morton from Atletico Dallas, who we'll come back around on Atletico Dallas in some point in the near future. But anyway, that's the vibe. Like, that's what we're doing when we go to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, coming up on May 9th. We're doing a show from Centerville Bank Stadium. We're hopefully going to get a crowd of people there to participate in various ways. I know we're going to run into ultras. That was the thing about Albuquerque. So we were still kind of, getting a viewer base that we could say. People didn't know who we were. They're walking by. They're like, what's going on there? Mr. Bob stopped by. I think that's why Mr. Bob became a fan of the show, because he stopped by. He dropped off his book of poetry about New Mexico United. He said hello. That vibe is what we're looking for. And now that we are a little bit more established, Rob, what I'm trying to say is I know we're going to get actual ultras on the scene in Rhode Island. I'm very excited.
And then you saw those Meow Wolf characters in the background of that screenshot. What can Pawtucket and Rhode Island FC produce? Do they have some
Ooh, that's a good
outlandish
question.
mascots or anything like that?
Well, I don't want to put too much pressure on Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Like I don't think you need to match the level of Albuquerque and the Meow Wolf creatures. But come by, wear your gear. If you have a morning kick around, like I understand there may be Rhode Island FC fans who want to wear their Rhode Island FC gear, and I imagine there might even be some traveling Tampa Bay Rowdies fans because that's the opponent on the day. If you have morning kick around gear, though, come by, like get a shot. We'll take some pictures. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait to be there. That's only like 10 days away or something like that. We're getting pretty close. We got to get our ducks in a row for that. But stay tuned. The end of the show, we'll have details on how to scoop up 4 tickets to that show. We'll have a giveaway this week and next. So in the interim, head over to Blackstone Valley Tourism Council's social media, where there will be a related question, and you answer those questions, and you could get some tickets to that game. All right. We talked about becoming a member. We talked about supporting the show. We talked about ticket giveaway. Are we ready to do the show?
Let's go. Let's dive in.
All right. Soccer and construction coming up to head off Monday's morning kick round. Here we go. Welcome on in. Soccer under construction on morning kick round. I think we might have to fire up the clanger for new stadium progress. Des Moines, Iowa. They've been hanging in limbo for a long time, but the owners and the investors say that they've passed the difficult hurdle of funding, and now they're in the fun part of working with architects as the funding behind Iowa's stadium has been complete. So now they are moving to the fun part. So they say for the Iowa Pro Stadium and Global Plaza.
Global Plaza. Wow, that's ambitious. You did mention that if we were doing the morning kick around drinking game, which we do not encourage you to do at 9:37 East Coast time and 6:37 West Coast time. If you're in England right now, you're absolutely entitled to maybe play the morning kick around drinking game. But if we were doing that, what's the phrase that pays in the drinking game, Rob?
Mixed use venue.
Mixed use. We're doing mixed use development in Des Moines, Iowa. Here you can see on screen a photograph of the 2 principal individuals, Jeff Lorenzen, CEO of American Equity Investment Life Insurance Company and president of the Iowa Soccer Development Foundation, and Kyle Kraus, founder of Kraus Group, owner of Parma Calcia 1913. Is it Calcia or Calcio? I just copy and pasted that. I want to maybe we need to, I don't know. We'll check on that. Anyway, that is those are the individuals behind this. Kyle Kraus is the guy that owns the Des Moines Menace. He owns the rights to launch pro soccer in Des Moines via the USL. Right? He owns the USL rights. This is what that's going to be. He is also, his money comes from the storied Come and Go family of Iowa. They ran the Come and Go line of gas stations. I think I've never been to one. I've never stopped at a Come and Go. So I just know about it. But that is where their money comes from. I think he sold the company, but now he's invested in soccer in Italy. And now it looks like we're finally going to get something in Iowa. I know we don't have a drum roll. Do you want to clang the clanger before I bring up a rendering here, Rob? Can we do that?
Is it possible to do both at the same time? Oh, we're clanging and rendering here, hopefully. Boom.
Now, I am not necessarily, in terms of as a rendering connoisseur, right? As a veteran of American soccer renderings, I like a rendering that's got a little more realism to it. This is not terrible, but it does kind of smack of a video game from 2005, right? It's kind of like that.
College football 2005 on the early Xbox.
The graphics are a little behind the times, if you know what I'm saying. And by the way, I will just point this out for John. It's not spelled that. It's spelled differently. Moving on. All right. So look, if they build this, it's really nice. It's really nice. I don't know if you can get all the trees to look that beautiful at the same time, but in terms of the state, there's a roof on two sides. I know it's open ended, but that we're used to that. It's pretty standard at this level of soccer. Do we have an idea how big this venue is supposed to be?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because in this press release or this article from the Business Record, the initial plan was 6,500 attendees for this, but they talk about basically it seems like the design is going to start from here. Now that they've got the funding going, they'll go from there. So Jeff Lorenzen, the gentleman we saw on the left, he said that this is the fun part. Getting over the line with the funding was a huge challenge, and now getting it to the point where we can engage with architects and construction companies to come in and show us what our dream looks like in reality is now the fun part. And then just slowly watching it go from the ground to a stadium and global plaza in a mere 24 to 36 months is going to be a game changer for Des Moines. And then so they've raised, Iowa Soccer Development Foundation has raised more than $90 million for the project, which includes $7 million grant from the Des Moines City Council. The project also has received more than $40 million in private contributions, including $23 million from Kyle and Sharon Krause. It also has received $17 million from State of Iowa's Reinvestment Act program, along with $5 million from the state's Destination Iowa Fund.
Yeah, so when we covered it, and it's been maybe a year
coming for a while. Yeah,
we've been talking we've been talking about it because we didn't see any developments. I think at one point, like months and months and months ago, I said, "Hey Rob, what's going on in Des Moines? Should we check in Des Moines?" And there was nothing happening in Des Moines. We didn't have any updates to deliver. Like I felt like, oh, this is a story we should be following, and then there wasn't anything happening. And a lot of this had to do again with this Iowa Soccer Development Corporation or whatever asking for public money. And, we just saw Columbus get an NWSL team, and the Haslam family, the principal owners, and that club be gifted some parkland in Columbus that was originally meant for another park development that was going to be for people with accessibility needs and things like that. And I didn't love it, right? I didn't love the vibes that came off of that. It was going to be for the training facility, not even for the stadium. I don't love public money going to people who have the money to go buy Italian soccer clubs. Sorry, still love that. But of course, I'm not from Des Moines. I'm not an Iowan. It is up to the people of Iowa and the people who love soccer in Iowa to decide if this is the trade-off that they're willing to do, Rob. So it's a pretty stadium. We are very much an abundance, go ahead, dot the map kind of place here on the Morning Kickaround. That's why we clang the clanger. And when we dot the map, we want to celebrate that. And if this gets pro soccer to Des Moines, Iowa, which has long been home to a very successful amateur side in Des Moines Menace, then the more power to you. I was thrown for a little bit of a loop because somebody made a joke about if you build it, they will come. And of course, this is the come and go family. So it really works. And it's Iowa. I mean, come on. It's like the whole thing is perfect for that.
So to answer your previous question a little bit more exactly, the initial proposal for this stadium in Des Moines, Iowa was 6,300 seats. And the exact number of seats in the stadium will be dependent on the final design. Lorenzen, the gentleman with Krause in that picture we showed, said some changes are expected from that initial proposal. He anticipated there would be minor changes that the average person likely wouldn't notice. And here's a quote from him. "We want to be able to expand the stadium at some point, but maybe having footings in so you can do that expansion when the time comes. Some of it was just pulling back on some of those amenities. But from an aesthetic standpoint, I don't know that the average person would know the difference between one rendering and the other. They don't know how much we look at renderings. It's more of what he's like, people won't notice that there's no roof on there. Well, it's more of what it will look like going forward and allowing us flexibility to expand as much as we can."
There's a podcast I listen to that has nothing to do with soccer that does a thing that when they talk about somebody who's a public person in the subject of their show, they give them a right of reply. Now, again, we're not really diving into people's backgrounds and things, but if there is something that gets said or presented on the show, I want to make sure that it's out there. Like Jeff Lorenzen wants to come on the show to respond to anything we say about this plan in Iowa, anything that he thinks we might have gotten wrong, or as you said, like he doesn't know how closely you look at renderings, then you have a right to come on the Morning Kickaround and explain it. And we're more than happy to celebrate the success and the progress, right? I want to be sure that we're not passing up an opportunity to look at these deals with a critical eye, if only because I think the people of these cities, in this particular case, Des Moines, Iowa, deserve somebody looking at this and going, hey, is this really the best deal for Des Moines? But I'm sure Jeff Lorenzen thinks it is. I'm sure Kyle Krause thinks it is.
Yeah, and just one final note on these gentlemen. Kyle Krause, the owner of Des Moines Menace, still bought them in 1998. So he's been a long time participant. That's a USL2 team now. And that I mean, there's not too many teams that have been around that long.
No, good. I mean, that is something. I also point out Des Moines Menace, famously the ringer squad from the Open Cup a couple years ago when Sasha Kleshtin got a bunch of ex-MLS players to go represent Des Moines Menace in the Open Cup. So they've done some things. They've done some interesting things.
All right, B part of soccer under construction. Pittsburgh slipped in some sneaky renderings, brand new renderings at Pittsburgh Riverhounds, formerly known as Highmark Stadium. They had a update last week about being renamed FNB Stadium, and there's a couple things to look at here.
Okay, so first I want to establish what it looks like now. This is actually 11 months ago. I grabbed this from Google. Shout out to Ryan Schaefer, who posted this to Google. This is, I wanted to get the skyline of Pittsburgh, which you can see across the river there, right? So this is Highmark Stadium. And I haven't been myself, but I hear everybody talks about how picturesque it is. Like it's one of the best small soccer stadiums in the country, in particular because of the views, but the vibes of it are very good. Now, one thing that you can't really see from this picture is that there's some train tracks right along the river there, right? And I believe that when the train goes by, you can see the train. This is very much like Keyworth, right? Like the idea that there's some quaintness to the stadium because of the train. It always makes me think of Brewster's Millions, because it's one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid. Richard Pryor playing a minor league baseball player for the Newark Bears, I think it's what they were. And then, Hackensack Bulls. My apologies. Newark Bears. Hackensack Bulls.
I remember seeing that movie as a little kid and being like, this is just silly.
I loved it, though. I loved Brewster's Millions. My favorites. Anyway, John Candy. It's a great movie. This is what Highmark looks like now. This is what they are proposing it to look like. Now, this actually, let me show you. This was the original rendering that we talked about, and we kind of went over the moon about this. We're like, oh my god, look, this is so cool. You got yes, it's a horseshoe shape, but obviously you're up against the river. But 3 covered stands. This is going to be one of the coolest stadiums in America. And then, as you said, they sort of sneakily dropped in a new higher res rendering, higher level. With what was that trestle situation, which I don't think it is because it's a walkway. As you see, it is, but the train is now below that walkway, which means the train will not be visible from the stadium anymore or from the field. I guess if you're in a certain part of the stadium, you might be able to see it go by. So we might lose that. But in every other way, this is pretty incredible, Rob. Like this is going to be one of the coolest stadiums in soccer, period, if they build this.
Just looking at this, I mean, it's super scenic, picturesque, covered all the way around. I mean, for a 3-sided stadium, this is about as epic as they come, at least in North America. And I'm curious if that mountain or that large hill that's behind there, if that is some sort of protected land, because it's wild that there's that much open space with views of the city that isn't developed yet.
Pittsburgh is it's nestled in this valley, right? There's a river valley, and the 3 rivers come together. I never really thought of Pittsburgh outside of like, the Steelers play there, the Pirates play there. I was always very, my perceptions of Pittsburgh are always based on sports for whatever reason, and I never thought about the landscape of Pittsburgh. But yeah, it absolutely does look like that. There are overlooks and big hills, and it's right there. Yeah, and Peter in the chat, who says he's just got a part-time job with the Riverhounds, says that it is protected. So this is a part of the landscape, the scenic areas of Pittsburgh that is on that side like that. On the other side, which I guess if you did the rendering from the other side, you don't really. I mean, I would love to see the outside from the other side. We don't have that, but then obviously you get the open side, the river, and the land and the skyline of Pittsburgh across the river.
Yeah, just to think for a second, kind of daydream. If you're allowed to, that is a walkway on that brick trestle in between the stadium and the railroad. Just imagine, standing there, you got a mountain, a soccer stadium, obviously the game behind you is the train and the river. That's a heck of a situation, and that's quite a scene for American soccer. But let's move right along and get into some World Cup news next up here on Morning Kickaround. World Cup news is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of bleeding purple in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Tickets on sale now. Schedule at Oakland County FC online. Check those out and more. So our update today, New York City. They had some street festivals in the plans, and those look to be in danger. The NYPD and the Transit Authority kiboshing some meet and some site visits planned for those. And those look like, after consulting with NYPD, they don't seem like they want to staff these.
Yeah, I don't know how much of this is a political fight, right? How much of this is about attitudes, the way that the New York City Police Department feels about their duly elected mayor. Okay, that's a thing that's, I imagine, part of this, but I don't have a handle on this. And rather than sort of go, well, clearly the NYPD doesn't like Mamdani and they're doing, I can't say that. But you read this article at streetsblog, nyc.streetsblog.org, and it is a little over the top, right? The article is kind of meant to inflame some opinion, but it talks about this being, Mamdani's home neighborhood where one of these screenings is supposed to be, or one of these festivals is supposed to be happening, fan fest, street festivals, and that there have been plenty of public movie screenings with hundreds of people in these areas. And why is this any different than that? Right? I don't know. The spokesperson for the NYPD, who did not give their name, said police were, quote, working with City Hall and other city agencies to plan a wide variety of events associated with the World Cup and to ensure that everyone attending these events can enjoy them safely. So, again, this might not be the door closed on these things, but it is certainly not encouraging that there's some sort of police attitude that, hey, we can't do street festivals around the World Cup, especially when we talked about, Rob, how the real expression of passion around this World Cup is going to be through things like this, because it cost you $3,000 to go to a game.
Yeah, we're thinking that the small scale stuff, in neighborhood stuff, is where we were gonna thrive as far as celebrating and coming together for this tournament after the big stuff is closed down. But there's some pedestrian only streets following COVID, and there's one referenced in Queens and one in Prospect Heights. So I'll read a quote from Alex Morano, board member of Prospect Heights Open Streets, which runs a place on Vanderbilt Avenue, which they had an event planned. And his quote is, Commissioner Titch, the leader of NYPD, is actively choosing to ban New Yorkers from enjoying anything fun in our public spaces for a huge portion of the summer. This is an absurd decision that the commissioner needs to immediately rectify. So you'd see from the spokesman, they're not ready to give up on these street-based events, but it definitely isn't going to be an easy path by the look of it. Yeah,
I mean, look, again, I understand that there are lots of considerations that go into these things. Like, I don't love like the reactionary thing of like, oh, this is, I just showed that. Thank you, Billy Bob. The reactionary thing of like, oh, they're banning the World Cup because they hate soccer, or the police are bastards, or how, oh, they're doing this to punish so-and-so. Like, that's sort of the easy and probably incorrect conclusion to jump to. Like, part of this story here is that the police department of New York says they're already sort of stretched because there's going to be a lot of America 250 celebrations in July in that area and that time in New York City. And that's probably true, right? And in a way that is even bigger than the World Cup. Like, so the World Cup appeals to soccer fans. And I imagine if you're not a soccer fan, but you want to participate, a fan fest is a great way to do it. But of course, we're all Americans, right? And that's a universal kind of thing in a place like New York that everybody can participate in America 250, whether you're like, it's not a soccer thing, it's not a specific to one sport thing, and it's certainly not something that it's something everybody can celebrate. So if the city of New York wants to put on American 250 celebrations, and you need police to secure those as well, then man, yeah.
I saw a conflicting report though saying that they might be overstretched because of World Cup security details and then America 250 security details, but apparently NYPD like way overstaffs those sort of events. So if they could allocate their resources in a different way than they have in the past, might allow for there to be proper staffing of this. And there was a quote by Mom Donnie saying that these aren't birthday parties, these are going to be big events, so it's understandable that there's concerns about staffing it, but it is not a good momentum. We say, is there momentum in sports? But there's definitely momentum in event curation, and things are going
so part of the thing here that's kind of a little bit beyond me and Rob is the geography of all this, right? From a New York City specific perspective, like this Brooklyn neighborhood or this. There are other stories out there that say today, as a matter of fact, and it is 10 o'clock Eastern, so I'm not sure exactly when this is supposed to go down. But this one says that there is a plan for a World Cup fan zone on Staten Island. Now, that's not the city in the same way that, it's not Manhattan, it's not Brooklyn, it's not Queens, it's Staten Island, a borough of New York, but a kind of a different thing. But I am seeing that Mom Donnie is scheduled to make an announcement in person at Staten Island University Hospital Community Park, along with the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, and the CEO of the New York, New Jersey host committee. So 5 fan fest, this story says, across New York. So the ballpark in St. George from June 29th to July 2nd. That's the stadium for the Staten Island Ferry Hawks minor league baseball team. So they're going to be putting on a fan fest, at least there on Staten Island, and again, checking on the 5 other fan fests that are apparently still in the plans, even as maybe some of these smaller street festivals get canceled. And look, again, I understand. I'm seeing some chat. I'm not going to put it on screen. Shout out to Mitch. I understand people's general attitude about this, and there are lots of people who tell you the police are happy to take overtime opportunities when it fits their particular idea of what should happen in their city or whatever, right? And again, this goes into some areas of current political discussion that I don't think we want to do on this particular show. But just, trust me when I say that I am sympathetic to some of those thoughts. I just don't know enough, and I like to check every angle of something before I make some grand conclusion. Again, I don't want to throw a blanket over the entire NYPD and say, "Oh, look at these bastards canceling fan fests. What assholes!" Like I don't want to do that. But yeah.
Well, we've seen in this short tenure that the mayor of New York is a bought-in soccer fan, and it seems like he would do anything in his power and his resources have to make something happen to celebrate this game. And I saw that he had a thing about he's teamed up with Gotham, and they're trying to get some groundswell of grassroots support for Gotham as well. So he's not going to let that happen. But it's interesting that, like you said, there's a whole swirl of politics in New York that's complicated, but that mayor there seems like he was going to try to do his utmost to make it happen.
Okay. Again, in the interest of covering all of this that we can in the moment here on our show, mention Staten Island. Again, we talked about the canceled street festivals, whatever that is. We got Staten Island, and now Queens Daily Eagle reporting that there is a free fan fest planned for Queens from June 11th to June 27th. So I guess that's basically the entire World Cup, right? Or almost, not quite.
Well, it's the group stage. That's the group stage. So they're just doing it for the USA games.
So this Queens fan zone will be at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center and will be free. And again, Mom Donnie's set to make these announcements today. So, and this from Armando, Mom Donnie just announced they're selling $1,005 tickets to Gotham FC. So, man, this maybe this is happening as we speak. So let's just kind of like put a pin in what this is and come back to it. And of course, New York City is just one place for American soccer fans to engage with the World Cup, and we want things to happen in other places. I mean, I would love for there to be are there going to be fan festivals in Chicago, despite the fact Chicago's not a host city, right? That's a metropolitan, international, extremely diverse city with thousands and thousands of people who would love to celebrate the World Cup together. Will they have a chance to do that? Don't know.
Morning Kick-Around's coverage of the World Cup is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer and bleeding purple in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Tickets, schedule, announcements, and more available online. Oakland County FC across all platforms. Oakland County FC fighting on 3 fronts: USL2, Midwest Premier League, and in the TST. All right, looks like our guest is waiting in the wings, so let's move along and talk to Andrew from Because Football. Next up here on Morning Kick Around. Welcome in Morning Kick Around. We are now joined by a guest on a mission to visit all the World Cup host cities before the World Cup begins, I believe. Andrew, welcome to Morning Kick Around.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
Taking on a big challenge, Andrew. Give us the origins of your plans and what you've got going on at Because Football.
Yeah, I've been joking a lot with people lately that I might have bit off a little more than I could chew. But I guess it's better to shoot for the stars there and land on a cloud. We'll see how that plays out and how that applies here. But yeah, some of the background. I started doing a podcast about 3 years ago, and then started video storytelling, going to matches at all levels of the game about 2 years ago. This kind of coincided with more or less a long working honeymoon that my wife and I had planned. So honestly, the first video that I put out for Because Football was, I think, in Argentina. And then it was just kind of this like global journey for a little over a year. And then as thoughts and vision turned to literally coming back home and returning, it said, hey, we've got the World Cup on our doorstep. And I'm so grateful for all these opportunities in Portugal and in Indonesia and in the UK. But actually, why have I learned more, had more experiences of the game in these places than in my own country, in my own backyard, more or less. So that was kind of this vision of then looking at how can I explore the World Cup host cities, not so much for the World Cup stories and these current events, as much as just using this as a moment to reflect on the game in each of these places, and also share more of these local stories, their most important stories, with not only a local audience. It's kind of been a nice thing about going to these places. There's typically 1 or 2 stories that I surprise local people with that they're not aware of, but also then international. We see how kind of that builds for people who really want to dig beneath the surface of just the games and know more about each place outside the specific World Cup venues.
Yeah, great follow for the soccer lover, even a history lover too, because I've definitely learned some factoids from watching your videos. And so with like 40-something days until the World Cup starts, like which host cities have you been, and which ones have you enjoyed the most?
Great question. So I gotta say I've enjoyed them all, right? And I am so grateful and appreciate all the people who have really been receptive to the project. I say that like of the people who reply to reach out messages who want to be a part of it, it must be like a 99% yes rate, which I feel very grateful for. So at this point, been to 13 of the host cities. So all of the East Coast except for Toronto. So the first one was New England, or New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Miami. I was fortunate to go to Mexico, so Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City last year. And then just recently, a few weeks ago, went more West Coast plus Dallas. So started Bay Area, LA, quick trip to Dallas, then Seattle and Vancouver. So the elusive 3, Kansas City, Houston, and Toronto. So would love to make that happen during the World Cup itself. As you had alluded to, it's not going to happen beforehand, but hopefully be able to feel some of the World Cup feeling. So if you're in any of those cities, reach out. Would love to connect.
So for people who have maybe not watched your videos, what's the approach? I mean, are you thinking about this as a journalistic enterprise? Are you just trying to catch the soccer vibe in a city? Do you have like a plan? You said you reach out, but what's the kind of like how do you kind of like I guess you make it so that when you look at a city, you're kind of giving the same picture you gave it of other cities, so people can maybe compare, contrast, get a vibe from that.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been a challenge at times to be somewhat consistent because I try to look at as many levels as possible and as many roles. So by levels, everything from your MLSs and USLs. I don't think I've been to NWSL match yet, unfortunately, but trying to cover everything from that to like your local adult pickup groups to youth
Right.
clubs in
Yeah.
certain areas, then different roles, fans, coaches, players, soccer mom, taco trucks, like, everything in the community, and then different time periods, Rob, as you had alluded to, right? So some of the past and present, and a little bit of the future. So I think as far as like trying to have as consistent as possible, a little bit too is kind of up to the soccer gods of like who I'm able to connect with. Some cities I have a little more runway and lead up than others when it comes to my planning. Some it's like I show up and I have general ideas, and then the people you've been talking to and lining up for a month, they're like, oh, actually, we're not going to do it, or I can't make it, or we have this or that happening. And so you pivot. But I think for me, it's just trying to really look at what the game means to people. I think that's kind of like the consistent vision throughout the content I have. And when we look at something like the World Cup, I'm not so much interested in who will win the World Cup, who will be the golden boot. I'm more interested in, hey, maybe what are some of these underdog stories? I'm more interested in a given area. Are there connections, internationally, with some of these countries that are visiting with the host cities? And so while it looks a little bit different, I kind of call it like a mixtape, an anthology of different stories. And as far as journalism, I feel like I'm standing more on the shoulder of giants here, of a lot of people who have done the work, and it's me just kind of digging into social media or kind of secondhand. So I don't really take credit for exposing many new stories. I think it's just trying to breathe new life into them and then show people on the ground a little bit what it's like. And it's kind of all tied through this thread of, my journey and the adventure here. And so I think that's the goal, is just to get upfront and close and personal with people, whether it's big stories that we all know about and lauding in the game right now, Portland Hearts of Pine being one, right? Or getting out to Seattle and like meeting with the team at Ballard FC, right? And so some of these teams that are making waves, and then it's just one. Sometimes you show up and you get a nice tip from somebody, and it's somebody who played back in the day, or a legendary coach, or
Right.
orders.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, I don't know why this. I mean, I don't know if this is uncomfortable or not. But how are you paying for all this, Andrew?
Great question. I love the segue. So it's definitely, to your, again, going back to your question right before there, it's been, for me, I see this as an opportunity, right? I think not only to learn about the game in different places, to network. So now I have probably one of the most random networks in North American soccer, which I'm again, very, very grateful for, but all different levels and different people involved in the game. We've relied a lot on partners into different areas, and some places that's a little easier to find partners for that than others. And I think the big thing that comes back to with a lot of this content, you guys will know it, and depending on people's level of involvement in their own social media for their businesses and brands, is, how ultimately are we going to get an ROI? How are we going to reach a local audience, or whatever our target is? And so there's kind of two pieces to that with our partners. And it's like, in the one way, it's just the function of the algorithm. I've seen it all over the world in close to 20 countries now over 2 years. Like, it's very much keyword topic driven. So like, I went to Vancouver, posted 5 daily update reels in Vancouver. I'd never been to Canada, never been to Vancouver. And now we have X amount of followers. And I can see from the demographics in Instagram and in YouTube who's seeing it, right? And so that's kind of the benefit of it. So that's kind of been the hope of trying to find it with partners. Fortunately, I have a lot of friends around the country that I've been able to crash on couches, guest bedrooms. I mean, that's arguably your biggest expense. So it's been very much a community effort. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's been a little everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. On a very selfish note, literally trying to plan a trip to Argentina, and I've told my wife if we go to Buenos Aires, I have to go either to La Bombonera or to.
You have a lot more than just that, Jason. Let me know, man. That was my first spot. I spent a little over 2 months in
All right,
Argentina.
I'm gonna
give you connections and ideas,
okay.
and yeah, there's so
I'm
much
reaching out.
from the 6-year-old ballers to La Bombonera, Monumental,
I mean,
everything.
There's only so much soccer I can foist upon my beautiful wife. She's not soccer first, but if I can mix it in, I'm gonna have to do that. It's
the
impossible.
asado, the red wine. There's a lot empanadas. It's gonna be
yeah, for sure. The asado is that I know we can do. All right.
Yeah.
So you like you said, your goal was to get to all the host cities. You've got the 3 left. Hopefully, you get a chance to go and see them. I mean, we just got done talking about fan festivals in New York City, and when you've traveled, what's the sense you get of what people expect for the World Cup in North America? I mean, obviously, it's going to be different in Mexico than it is going to be in the United States in terms of how people view its importance culturally. But what have you kind of taken away from those experiences?
Yeah, I think every single person I talk to, there's 2 main questions, and it's either what is your place or city? What's unique about your soccer culture? Why do you deserve to now be a part of World Cup history forever? Why do you deserve to host the world? The other is exactly your question there. What's your hopes for the legacy of the tournament? I have found, again, it's very personal, depending on a variety of life experiences and perspectives of their person has. But in general, I have found like some differences regionally. To your point, yes, in Mexico, the game is not going to have the same cultural impact as we hope it will in the US and Canada. In the story in Mexico is like, we're just glad to have a big tournament because now there's all these huge infrastructure projects, and we're looking forward to now new highways and new like high-speed rail lines to the airport and those kind of things, right? Which I don't think we're seeing that same like infrastructure piece on the US and Canadian side. I think that again, it's very city to city. Dallas is a place where I went where they seem arguably the most bullish on the World Cup, right? I haven't been to Kansas City yet, but conversations there, they're kind of like, we see this as an opportunity to put Kansas City on the map, and everybody from, mayor, governor, like everybody who has influence there down to the average soccer fan is like, we're so excited for this opportunity. And then they feel they have the right recipe for like to host a great experience day to day for fans as well. So I've kind of noticed, like, I think, again, you guys are talking about New York, we've got New York, LA, Miami. These are all very much soccer cities that are so diverse, which is a beautiful thing. That's probably one of the most common themes that's come up through this is through the US and Canada's the diversity of the type of interest in the game. And the type
Can I
of
stop
fans.
you there for a second?
Sure.
Just because I think about this a lot as somebody who has, written about the higher levels of American soccer and focused mainly on the men's game. Like, oh, is MLS breaking through? Or, how important is our national team? Why can't we sell out our national team games? Stuff like that. But, if you live in any place that's even moderately diverse and has other cultures that love the game, you see that we have sort of like these parallel cultures in America when it comes to the sport of soccer. Like, if I go and just look online, where should I sign up my 5-year-old to play soccer? I'm going to get a bunch of soccer clubs. There's Alexandria, there's Arlington, there's all these places, McLean Soccer Club with John Harkes works, right? These are the kind of clubs where you'd have to pay thousands of dollars a year to play. But every Sunday or every Saturday or whatever, behind my house at the middle school, there are men's league games going on where there's not a lick of English being spoken. There's an entire community of, I think, East Africans who have their own leagues for their kids, right? And I think I'm wondering how much of that you experienced, because I think it's really easy to think of American soccer as one thing and not appreciate that there's all these different things, and we don't connect them all that well sometimes.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's a part of that, of the diversity and the many different faces of the game in the US. I mean, hey, it's a massive country, right? So I think for me, a lot of these places, my first time going there was for this project. So just having the experience in general, like, we're such a massive, diverse country. And all of these are major cities that are going to have a lot of internal diversity, but it looks different place to place and regionally. But yeah, to your point, I think, touching on kind of the nature of the importance of immigrants to the game in the United States has been since like day one, right? And I think that we still have that we absolutely still have that. It's maybe a little more obvious in certain places than others. And it does then manifest not only in your Sunday league or pickup games, but also like hey, is this more of a, like Miami, for example? I call Miami is absolutely a soccer football city. Before Messi, it was non-MLS city, right?
Right.
After Messi, we will see. There's a lot of people like who are like, I don't really know how this is going to go. They put a lot into the Messi bucket, and then once he leaves, is it the same? But you had a lot of people there that love the game. They'll show up. They're going to watch Barca, Real. They're going to watch Boca and River at the local club. They're going to be watching their teams from Colombia or wherever. They weren't that interested in MLS, right, or USL. So there's some challenges to that where it's like, the game is not necessarily equal in all senses of trying to get people to buy into the American soccer structures of your MLS, even maybe youth soccer to an extent. But then there is this passion for it. So I think one thing that's definitely come out from this is not only that, and then these different waves, New England is a great example. Philadelphia, where I'm from, New York, these are older cities. St. Louis, unfortunately, you guys are not in this because you're not part of the World Cup, but like, again, one of these historic soccer cities and regions where we've seen go back over 100 years, the importance of different immigrant groups, clubs, leagues that then still live on to this day. And then we do have the newer generations of people as well, which I think is part of this, such an important part of the American game. So refreshing.
Yeah. I don't mean to imply you're supposed to have like some full sense of all of this just because you're traveling a little, and doing a significant travel. And I love that you're doing this, Andrew. A survey of American soccer, truly hitting all of the depths possible would be immense. I mean, we're talking about multiple volumes, I think. I just was curious of your opinion on that.
Doing my best, but I do say, I've been saying a lot to this, like the U.S. has the most diverse, the most fascinating soccer culture in the world, right? I'll say those two things.
Absolutely.
So I think, again, to your point, I mean, talk to people in New York. You guys just brought up Queens. The amount of people are like, you could just explore the game in Queens for your whole life. Like that's all you need, right? And that was one of my favorite experiences, to your point, of just people playing on the weekend, these dirt pitches at Flushing Meadow Park in Queens. Every 2 hours, it switches over based on who's got the city field permits. It's a different league from a different country. And it's just, that's amazing. And then you also have, the suburban soccer moms, and what is this range and spectrum of American soccer? So I think my thing is like, let's just kind of take a minute, try to really look at our stories and appreciate where we're at. There's a lot that we could do better, but there's a lot of things that are pretty incredible. And that's kind of been a joy to be able to explore.
Yeah, the American soccer landscape, parallel, fractured, uneven from place to place. One day we'll figure out how to connect all of those parties interested in the game together. You mentioned that with some of your research, you almost educated some folks on the ground in these cities on some history that they didn't know. Was there something that you learned that you were visiting, and a source that you were talking to, or a host type person that was showing you around kind of tuned you into something that you had no idea about?
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, very much kind of falling maybe similar to you guys. Everybody expresses their soccer nerddom differently. But for me, I think a lot of this was a little bit of the history of, there's this narrative of the game being so new, right? When I was traveling around, and I'm in Europe and South America, again, Jason, you go to Argentina, people are going to ask you about the game here, and they're going to say, well, it just started with Messi, 3 years ago? Like, apparently there was nothing before Messi, right?
Right.
So that's the mindset. So everywhere, that's the question. And so I think that while there's been these ups and downs, for me, it's important to be like, guys, like, we've got over 100 years of history of the game here, right? It's very much hidden. It's not always been on the top of mind. So to specific stories, I've leaned a lot on people like Philadelphia. Ed Farnsworth is like the GOAT of that. I want to give a shout out to the SASH, Society of American Soccer History. I know you guys had Tom McCabe on. He was a great wealth of knowledge for New York, for Carney. That was one of, you mentioned Harks. That was one of my favorites, going to Carney Scott's American Club, getting to meet some of those guys and getting that Guinness there, just see, you're just living in this. It's like a living museum of the game. So cool. So I think, in Philadelphia recently, it's been exciting to see how people receive some of these stories and how I can help to, again, I'm not the first one discovering these things, but just maybe breathing a little new life and doing it in video format. Philadelphia Lighthouse Club, there's these crumbling concrete stands that are just sort of in the corner of their field complex. And the story there is that in 1952, Man United came over for a summer tour. They played a couple games in New York, played against the Philadelphia All-Stars as a condition of the game. They didn't have the infrastructure, so they're like, yo, United, you guys come play us, but like you got to pay to build these stands so that fans can come to the game. So they did. They got about 3,000 fans or so, and so there's still these like crumbling concrete stands in the corner, but nobody knows what that is, right? So it's like been really cool to see so many people. Where is this, or what is it? I didn't have any idea. And then you have your little percentage of people who are like in the community and like, hey, yeah, I remember that, or there was this and that story to check out too. On the topic of Lighthouse being so integral in Philadelphia, and kind of a testament to the dozens of stories of like things just coming together on this project, is actually a friend of mine that I'd played like men's league with for a few years. I was starting to look into this story. We ended up bumping into each other outside a game at the link after the Club World Cup, and started talking to him, telling him what I'm doing. He's like, oh, like my grandfather was like the vice president of Lighthouse for like 25 years. And he had all this information, all this gear. And I was like, so somebody I had already known now was such a firsthand kind of source of these stories, which is cool. In the Bay Area there, we did one on Kezar Stadium and the old like the United Soccer Association. Now there's still SF Cities playing there to this day, but like people like Puskas was supposed to coach them and then they folded, right?
Wow.
And before that, it was Ernst Happel, who is like, if anybody's familiar, is like he was actually the first manager to ever win European Cups with multiple clubs, right? Before Mourinho did it, before Ancelotti did it, before Pep. So the Austrian National Stadium's named after him, right? So like he was that coach, because they had just there's more of the story you can see on my Instagram. But there's all these pieces. Dallas, Kansas City, it's Lamar Hunt and his role in the Dallas Tornado and playing friendlies against the Russians in the 80s and things. And it's just like there's so many really fascinating stories to dig into, and the connections of people, of players, of coaches is just endless.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, sharing your story with us, and a little bit of soccer history. How many places, though, have you been where this is the site of a historic event, but now it's a parking lot?
Yeah, 100%.
That's American history in general, but
there's quite a few. Yeah, there is quite a few. So maybe we can, some really dedicated citizens can get together. We can get maybe a plaque up there. I'd like to put together some little events and tours, so if people are interested, keep an eye on.
There you go.
Things that
there you go.
Now. So keep these games alive, or keep these stories alive, right?
We should do that.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us, and a lot of information. And then I recommend anyone who surfs on social media to check out Because Football. So thank you, Andrew, for joining us here in Morning Kick Around.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
For allowing me to share. Take care.
All right. Thank you, MK Ultras, throwing a lot in the chat there. It looks like lots of thumbs up on the video, and then there's been some gift memberships handed out. So welcome, new MK Ultras, and be sure to become a full-time member once those are only good for a month. So be sure to re-up those if you enjoy the experience. We're going to come right back. Jason's going to open some gifts, and then we're also going to do a ticket giveaway question. So stick with us here on Morning Kick Around. Welcome back in Morning Kick Around. Great guest there, Because Football. Check Andrew's work out. A lot of great stuff there if you want to learn about the host cities hosting the World Cup. But Jason, you've had some packages arrive at the house?
I have. Yeah, I know you told me that you already opened your gift from River Guard out in Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho. Make sure I get that right. So I'm going to do that now. I imagine that we got similar gifts, Rob. So do you want to tell people while I open this up what you got, or?
Well, I got one. There's a couple stickers in there, and then there is at least one item that you can adorn. So it looks like you got the same thing as me. Yep.
All right, look at that. I got a River Guard scarf here. Very nice. I like the sort of tartan-esque element to it. Little little plaid kind of purple-ish. So there's the established 2025 for the River Guard and the River Guard logo. Thank you very much, the River. You said you got some stickers. Let me dive in there and see. No stickers for me. I don't believe I got.
They're in there. They're in there somewhere, I imagine. But someone commented when I opened on Friday that they looked that that Argyle type pattern would be pretty sick golf socks. As Jason goes under the desk, that's exactly what happened to me. I had to do the same thing on Friday. When I was looking for stickers.
A couple of stickers, yeah, little River Guard stickers. I got a lot of stickers in this space. They're all kind of adorning various things. I think this is probably just a packing slip. Oh no, I got a message. Sorry for taking so long to get these out, guys. Don't worry about it. Thank you for being part of the Morning Kick Around family. We couldn't keep up with demand. That's great news for River Guard. Thanks for doing the Lord's work, right? That is absolutely what we're doing. We're doing the Lords of Soccer's work, right? Let's not get it confused. I don't want my wife to think I'm being sacrilegious on this show. All right, this one is a second gift, which I don't believe Rob has gotten a gift from this particular group yet. This is
not yet. I'll have to check out my doorsteps. What did that come over the weekend?
FC, and we talked about Temecula. We did an interview with Temecula a couple months ago, maybe a month and a half ago or something like that. I'm trying to remember my timelines.
At least a month ago.
Yeah, and obviously this is a community club that's been trying to build something there in Temecula, California. What's the best way to attack this? That's actually there we go. Just
test. That's a test of strength there.
Brute strength. I think I got another scarf. I don't see any. I don't think.
Those stickers falling out again.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
There's my Temecula scarf. Quail Army says Quail Army on it, and you see the quail there. I like that a lot. That's nice, man. Scarves everywhere. Let me
the classic case of the falling stickers.
Time for the stickers. I got a cute. This is actually their. It looks like their jersey, their kit with a QR code on it. That's very cool. And then just this is the badge for Temecula football.
They've got great branding and logos. They do. Really like the Quail Army stuff. So I'll be on the lookout. Hopefully I have one coming as well. So I'll be on the lookout for that. Thanks to the Quail Army for sending that over to Jason.
Really cool stuff. Thank you very much to Temecula and to the River Guard supporters of Boise. AC Boise, excuse me. I also got a pin. Says Love Temecula Football Club on it. Rob, see that? Can you see that?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, that looks great.
Cool. Yeah, it's I like the quail. It's really cool. This is why we love this show. We get to make these connections with these clubs that are, again, doing the Lord's work in their particular communities, whether they're USL League One like AC Boise, or they're still in an amateur situation trying to grow something in a place like Temecula, California. That's the joy of this. We appreciate everybody.
So it's probably about time that we direct folks to Blackstone Valley Tourism Councils. Look them up on social media. They're going to be giving away 4 tickets. So we are going to post a question. We're going to give the Blackstone Valley guys a question related to content on today's show. Ooh. And if you're able to answer that question, 4 tickets to Rhode Island FC hosting the Tampa Bay Rowdies could be yours.
Could be going to join us to join Morning Kick Around as we do our live game day style show from Rhode Island, from Pawtucket. Going to be a great time. You can see the stadium there in the picture on this poster that we put up. I think it says like Wicked. They use the word Wicked a lot in New England. You know about Wicked, Rob? Are you familiar with Wicked as a?
Yeah. I remember Wicked Good Cider was an advertising campaign back in the day. Wicked was a great when I lived in England in the 90s. Things were wicked. And then so I like that. Wow. And then our guests on Friday, Kirk Riddell, he wore a Wicked Good Soccer t-shirt on the show, actually.
Oh, he did. Okay. So Wicked Good Soccer from Wicked Good Soccer. My New England accent needs some work, and I don't have the specific Rhode Island dialects down, but yeah, I got a buddy. He's from Rhode Island. He's already given me some recommendations, sent me a restaurant rec, and I know we've got lots of plans there with Blackstone Valley Tourism Board, and they're going to help us out to explore the region as we get ready for Saturday's big event, which is the live show from Centerville Bank Stadium, which you can see right there. Your guys will be out there. I don't know if we will have our jerseys yet. I hope so.
I
hope
sure
they will
hope
have
so.
arrived. But we will certainly be there on hand to interact with all of the ultras who might be able to make it. Obviously, you can watch it. The thing here. Remember, guys, we are a small business. This is a 3-person shop. Okay, we're just trying to make our way in American soccer media, and I want us to grow and I want us to reach new audiences. And in order to do that, we've got to be able to show people, hey, if you partner with Morning Kick Around, if you join up, if you buy ads or whatever it is, it's going to benefit you. And the way the best way for that to happen is if you hit like, which I know there's been a campaign in the chat this morning for everybody to like this video, but also to tell people about the show, to tell people about what we're building, to say how cool it is that we're tracking the growth of American soccer in all forms and fashion from the bottom up. This is not a pyramid exactly, but we are trying to build one in American soccer, and we're trying to chronicle exactly what's going on in places that are doing what Temecula is doing all the way up to building glitzy new stadiums. And certainly, again, soccer stadiums in places like Pawtucket, Rhode Island are an example of that, and shining a light and doing a show and doing all of that exploration of American soccer culture is such an awesome thing for us to get to do. And in order for us to keep doing it and to grow and do more of it, we need your help. So tell people about the show. Hit like on all the videos. Prepare for May 9th, right? That's a Saturday evening, right? So You're going to have to block off you're going to have to put that on your schedule and let everybody know we're watching Morning Kick Around on Saturday, May 9th, when they broadcast from Centerville Bank Stadium in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Yeah, everything that Jason just said and more. Big thanks to Kate, I play French horn, and Billy Bob Western for getting us to that goal that we set at the beginning of the show of 10 new members. So Silent Roving Wind, Anthony, SS Ships, Richo Baman, Becco TV1, Maestro Chiquitas, Andrew Snow, Santana Hernandez, Edward Michel, Beaver Mug. Thank you for joining us here as MK Ultras, and then over the weekend, Adam Lung and Guitar Riaga. But excuse me for any mispronunciations of screen names, as I'm want to do from time to time. So you get priority access, or you get to comment on these live videos, you get bonus content, and you get access to the Morning Kick Around Discord server, which I imagine our friend Jason will put a link in, so all of our new MK Ultras can join us there. And one of the highlights of becoming an MK Ultra, honestly, there's conversation threads from the national teams all the way down to your local teams and everywhere in between. It's a great collaborative place and a great place for discussion, and really where this show lives beyond watching on the YouTubes. All right, you got anything else before we step out of here for the day?
I do not believe so. I could hang out with the Ultras all day, but I know everybody's got stuff to do on a Monday. So thank you very much for watching the show back. By the way, another way to help the show, in addition to watching live and hitting like, is to go back to those videos that we post. Sometimes we take clips from the show, put them on the YouTube channel. The more people that are watching those, liking those, pushing those into the algorithm, the better it is for Morning Kick Around. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and then one more reminder, visit the Blackstone Valley Tourism Council to enter into the contest to win 4 tickets for May 9th game between Rhode Island FC and Tampa Bay Rowdies. All right, we will be back on Wednesday. So until next time, everybody, enjoy your soccer.